Hello, everyone. This is part 9 from President's Network chapter, and this lecture is the second lecture on remedy for interruptible activities. So, just a quick recap from the previous lecture, we covered the part on the contiguous here activities, where we have A, B, and C all restricted, and the critical activities, they must start and must finish on these particular days. However, B activity has given a lag of 2, and it's uncritical. So since we have the starting date, the early start of activity B is 4, let me grab my laser pointer. Start at 4, so we are within this gap of 4 days for B to start. So even having a lag of 2, it won't affect our sequence here. Now, when you look at the finish to finish activity, between C and D, it is also optional that B and C finish at the same day. But because it's restricted, that has to be done on the 14th. So this from Gantt chart here, it is not required that both have to be done on the same day, and for the 14th day is the finish day of C. However, A and B must finish on the same day, right? That's what we talked about. So then if we look at another approach for the contiguous with the splitting approach, here is when we have A, B, and C activities. A is split into 2, A1 and A2, and B is split into B1 and B2. So if A is critical for to start and it's finish, then for A2, it is optional to have the starting day on the 2 and the finish day, early finish on the 10th. So when A is done, B is, so it's finish to finish, right? So B1 get to start and finish according to its duration. So 2 plus 3, 5, and it's 5. 2 plus 3 is 5. But for 2 here, A2 must be done for B to be done in the same time with an uncritical relationship finish to finish here. So the split here, as you can see for B1, it's from 1 to 2, but for B2, again, B1 and B2 is one activity, right? We have this split here, mandatory buffer. Think of it like a concrete. When you place concrete, pouring concrete, then you need to wait for curing time. This is the curing time. Yes, the entire interval is blocked for B from here all the way to here, but actually you're not working here. So this is kind of the splitting approach for a contiguous activity, but you still have to indicate it in the scheduling, so people know that when they have the resource leveling, which we'll talk about it in next chapter, then they don't have to allocate any resources here other than just the required. So with that, if we're going to follow this approach here, the splitting approach for contiguous, then we need to eliminate any lags. As you can see, we don't have lags here. And the splitting, yes, it's the same activity. They don't have to be done on the same time, and their successor activities could be different as well. So some issues to consider for interruptible activities, if we're going to work with them in this way, then we have to think of the nature of the activities. Of course, from project to project is different, and and therefore, if you're thinking of splitting, then you have to think of what is the side effect that could come with it, the nature, the condition of the project, and the condition of the weather, and so forth. Also, the resource allocation and resource leveling. For instance, if it's more logical to you to split this certain activity because the logic says so, and also more efficient. But then when you look at the resource allocation and resource leveling, it'll be less cost effective to you. Then you're gonna have to make a decision, is it worth it? Like, for example, if this activity requires to use this type of machine, then if you're going to split it and this machine is charged on you on daily basis or on hourly basis, how are you going to relocate, how are you going to split these activities that needs this machine, and how that is going to be cost effective to you, and so on and so forth. Then cost loading is kind of goes hand in hand with the resource allocation and cash flow. If you're going to submit your work for progress payment, how that's gonna affect your work. Like, if you're going to split these activities, and in the work package, they don't look at this way. They look at a complete activity is done. But then if you're going to split it, if that's going to affect your cash flow, then the GC or the owner will hold your payment, will split them as well. So you're gonna have to work this out as well. And then the logic and interrelationships with the activities, we kind of covered this too. So some recommendations: when you do scheduling, it is recommended to change the interruptible activities into contiguous, because it's easier to work with. If you remember when we started this lectures, we said contiguous is easier to work with and easier for calculation. So if the software allows you to do that, then you may do so. And then once you finish your scheduling, then you can go back and add these interruptible activities or adjust them accordingly. And it'll be safe assumption if to have your contiguous activities as default when you start scheduling, and then work with each activity on individual basis if interruptible activities is more appropriate.